Namaskar, Jai Hind, and a very warm welcome to everyone who's attending the show today. As a state president of Vicky Karnataka Defence Forces Council, I feel deeply privileged to welcome you all to this special webinar series, the launch of Voice of Valor Veteran Series, which is an initiative of Vicky Karnataka Defence Forces Council. Through this series, we will shine light on lives which are shaped by courage, by purpose, and an unshakable will to lead. And these are not just stories, these are legacies, and they're reminders that strength doesn't always have to roar. It preserves, perseveres, nurtures, and inspires. And who better to kick off this landmark series than someone who has consistently broken all the barriers and led by example? Our first guest today, Lieutenant Colonel Navneet Khangura, is not only a decorated officer of the Indian Armed Forces with over 22 years of exemplary service, but also the first woman officer from India to serve as a military observer on a United Nations mission, a feat that still inspires awe and admiration. Her journey doesn't end at uniform. She has seamlessly transitioned into corporate world, becoming a domain expert in cybersecurity, GRC, and infrastructure security. A true example of leadership in every phase of her life. But for me, this introduction is also personal. Navneet was my senior in college, and even back in those days, before medals, missions, and milestones happened, she stood apart. Navneet, it's an absolute privilege to have you here with us today, and thank you for being the first voice in this series and for being a torchbearer for so many women who dare to dream beyond boundaries. So, without further ado, let's dive into your story. So, let's take it back from where it all began. So I want to know what drew you to the armed forces after completing your engineering from an elite engineering college of India and coming from a strong defense background. Was it something that you always saw doing, or was there a defining moment that sealed the path? Over to you.
Hey, Vandana. Firstly, I really want to thank you for giving me this opportunity, privilege to be the first one on your new series. I really wish you Godspeed in this series and always. And thank you for, actually reminding me all those times of college and then till now. Very kind of you. Yeah, going to your question. As you know, I was born to an infantry officer, and in my childhood, I've seen my dad don that uniform and, different uniforms for different occasions and duties. But it did inspire me a lot, but that was a time when it was not something which we saw in our people around us. Women officers were only either doctors or nurses. So it was not something which was open to women. So it kind of it was not on my radar as a option to pursue when I was a kid. I remember when I was in grade 5, I walked up to my dad and said, I want to become a fighter pilot in the Air Force. And he said, there are no women in Indian Air Force. So I thought, oh, this is not possible. But apart from that, I didn't really have that on my radar. It's only after I finished my graduation, and unfortunately, my dad was not well at the end of my graduation, and he knew he didn't have much long. When he kind of persisted me to get married, to being the eldest child, he was more keen, to get over with at least one of his responsibilities. That is when I kind of hit the rebellion, and I applied to all the three services, and my dad hit all my call letters. so it hands the guy who came to deliver it for the Indian Army, and I literally begged my dad that please let me go for the SSB and stuff like that. So things just kept happening. It wasn't really planned, but I would say maybe God had me in His mind to give me opportunities. They were like a lot of firsts which I experienced in my life. I was the first one from my family, a woman to become a woman officer. And I tell you, you remember me from my child, from that, that times I was like a feather. And I was not the one who had that kind of endurance to go through the military training. It was really a big time challenge for me. But I took it as my calling. I really persevered during my training. It was an endeavor for me to go through that. And my dad used to every few days call me up and tell me, if you want to come back, you can come back. So that really helped me have a resolve rather than having a backdoor to get away with it. I give a lot of credit to my dad. Maybe he knew this is what's going to work for her to be successful. Yeah. So that's how I came into India. Yeah.
Great. So now from that initial spark to a truly historic milestone, you were the first women officer from India to be deployed as a military observer for a United Nations mission. Now that's a pioneering achievement by every standard. So what kind of challenges did you face in that role, both professionally and personally, as you represented India on a global platform?
Vandana, United Nations was a experience extraordinaire. I cannot compare any other experience in my life with that time. Firstly, I was just about 4 years of service. I was very young when I went there. I did not have that kind of an exposure as to what the world is about, right? And yeah, you keep saying I was the first one, but we were two women officers who were selected, and that we both went together. There was a lady from Engineers, Anuja Yadav, very dear friend of mine. Okay. She was just a batch or two senior to me. So we were very young. We had not seen the world, and we got into this scene which we had only seen in movies. Things like child labor in diamond mines and stuff like that. And the both of us, we got selected as military observers. Now, this is something which is an independent appointment where you do not go with a contingent or a battalion or something like that. So it was a very different kind of a challenge, which we had not even thought what it would be like. Initially, we both took it more like an adventure, and so there were moments which were, to me, very, very difficult emotionally when I saw certain things. And, I heard this someone say to me when I was there that Africa is where the gods have blessed the lands and cursed the people. So I could see, they had so much beautiful landscapes and everything was there, but somehow that country is the continent has been through a lot of turmoil. So apart from my own individual challenge of being a woman officer, being and somehow I landed up being stationed in a place where there were no women officers on my team site, and there were no Indian people also on my team site. I think the nearest closest people I knew, there were a few officers from Bangladesh, and mostly it was African countries and Uruguay and all. So it was a challenge, but then it also reinforced that perseverance in me. So it was like where you have highly unstable, high conflict zone situation. Thankfully, in my 1 year of stay, there's not been a major crisis which I have been through, but that you have to be prepared. I always used to have this backpack in my car that if I had to stay back, it's just I think one time that I had to actually stay back in the office, I could not come out of the office because our office was cordoned by some people, but it was something which got fizzled out in a day or two. I did not really see active ops, but that fear and that thing was always there. At the same time, I could get acquainted to the African continent. I took the opportunity to go around the eastern side of Africa. So it was a beautiful experience for me, especially so early in my service.
Great. Thanks, Navneet, for those insights. So 22 years in the uniform. I mean, that's a long time and no small feat, especially in a system that's traditionally male dominated. So were there moments, Navneet, in your journey where you felt you had to push harder to be seen, to be heard, just because you were a woman in the uniform? And how did you navigate those spaces and rise through those challenges?
So there were times, Vandana, when I was underestimated, when I was, dismissed before I even spoke. At times where I felt that I had to put in double the effort for half the credibility. But I think that only fueled my resolve at each of those stages. And what would I contribute? My strengths in competence, in building the trust with action rather than words, um, being ready to learn, right?
Yeah,
If I felt this is not something which is in my experience, I was open to ask. I was open to say I do not know this, and I can you help me know this better, right? And I give a lot of credit uh, to a lot of men who helped me. It's not always that I got the challenge from. It was just the time was such that we were much lesser number of women, and most of the appointments which I had, I was the first woman officer to get posted to an armored division, first woman officer to get posted to an infantry division.
oh really?
So it was the
Yeah,
first, it was a time of firsts.
first, yeah,
There were no, yeah. So, but there were people who did challenge me a lot and underestimated me, get intimidated probably by me. But then there were also much larger number of men, people, superiors, my subordinates, who helped me get better and better in what was expected from me, right?
sure.
So, yeah.
Great. So, Navneet, what would you say to young women today who are looking at entering the armed forces? And now that you're in cybersecurity, right? I think even cybersecurity also, women, they're still outnumbered by men, right? So, what is it that you would like
Yeah.
to share to all the young women who are aspiring to be in the army or in cybersecurity space?
So I would say, firstly, be bold. You you belong to these spaces just as much as anybody else. It's not something which is, only men or only a particular gender can do. It's just as much as you will upskill yourself. It's open to you. Don't wait to be invited. Find your place on the table and let your work speak for you. Um, be curious, learn continuously, and build allies, both men and
And
women,
yeah,
who
that's true.
believe, yeah, who believe in equanimity and excellence. If I would just, put it into two words, which I keep telling myself all the time, it's like just be.
Right.
In most of the times, we are thinking and analyzing a lot of things, while you just need to be in that situation, and you will be able to get through from one to the next step. If you're open to learn, open to hear people, open to take support, right?
Yeah. And it's important to stay, hold on, and continue doing, right? It's I think that attitude also
Yes,
makes a lot of difference, and eventually,
yes,
you tend to you find your way when you stick to a certain thing. So that is also important. Now, when you talk about
yeah,
army, there are two things which comes to mind, right? Service and discipline. Now, you've spent almost 2 decades in the service, right? So after decades of disciplined service in the army, you transitioned into a corporate world, another high stake, fast moving
yeah.
environment, but very different, right? So how was the transition, and what would you share about your transition? Were there any surprises, good or bad, along the way when you were transitioning from army to civil, right?
Yeah. I would say, Vandana, corporate world does speak a different language. But when it comes to leadership, resilience, or decision making under pressure, then it transitions across domains. And that is where the 22 years that I've served in the Indian Army, it helped me transition into the corporate world. I took in an extra effort to before I decided to move on, to speak to people from the corporate world, know what were the skills that were required, for me to transition into cybersecurity. Because I was the lucky one. I got to serve in the initial days of Army Cyber Group when it was being at that time it was called Army Cybersecurity Establishment, the elite organization of Indian Army, which happens at which is for cybersecurity. So I got there almost in 2009-ish. So thereafter, I got a lot of experience in this field. It was not something which was totally a new ball game for me to play, right? But still, the world which you have not seen, you can only guess. So I spoke to a lot of people. I upskilled myself. I did certifications. I did whatever initially. I just got myself into Coursera and stuff, and just to know what's there. And when I built that confidence that, okay, I have the domain knowledge, I have worked in that kind of environment, I even went a step ahead to ask people to take my mock interviews and evaluate me whether, I was fit for this kind of a role. And it's only then that I decided to actually put up my papers and move into the corporate world. And thereafter, I think it's just been I somehow God has aligned, for me to meet the right kind of people, open up the right kind of openings. The first interview which I gave, which basically I gave for just to get an experience of it. I was not even I was going to be out of the army for not for another 6 months, but I gave the interview for Flipkart, and I didn't make it. But somebody who interviewed me in Flipkart joined CoinDCX, and when they had openings, he reached out to me. Would you like to, apply for a couple of roles over here? And what will it open up? Will it be an opportunity that you would want to explore? And I finally joined CoinDCX, and I was very apprehensive that it's a cryptocurrency exchange, and I'm from the military. Will I really? It's so much in the future. They're talking about Web 3.0, and I am just transitioning. Do I really want to do this? But I loved it. It was such a good experience. They were setting up new stuff. They were setting up the new InfoSec team. So it gave me so much of opportunity to learn. And then I transitioned to Lloyd's Technology Center. We are setting up a new organization here itself. But, my experience from the army, wherein uncertainty and bringing things up from scratch and people skills, all those were very important things which helped me transition into these roles, right? And I'm still open to learn. I'm still learning new things. The corporate world, you cannot survive if you're not upskilling yourself on a daily basis, right? So that's what my transition story has been, and it's just the beginning. I keep telling people in my org and around that I'm a newbie. This is just my second job in the corporate.
Yeah, thanks, Navneet. I mean, you spoke about a lot of things. You spoke about certifications, mock interviews, building allies, networking, right? I think for women who are looking at transitioning from wherever, right? I think these are some important qualities that they all should look at. And I think people from defense, they do have all that it takes to, uh, persevere, exist anywhere, right? So beyond your professional journey, what moves so many of us is your personal strength, which you continue to demonstrate, right? Right now, you're raising two children independently while continuing to lead in your domain and inspire everyone around you. So, Navneet, what message would you want to give the women, especially those who are trying to rediscover their strength or balance their professional and personal lives in an era like today?
Vandana, to every girl and woman that's who's listening to this today, I would say your journey is your journey. It doesn't have to be like anybody else's, right? Mine is just a story which may interest you today. It will inspire you today. There are a lot of people who have inspired me in my life, right? And I would love to be that one person who inspired you to step out, um, and show up on your hardest days, because strength isn't something which is being unbreakable. It's just showing up, right? um, you can lead with grace, you can raise a family, you can chase an ambition and still make space for yourself. Ask for help when needed. Set boundaries, something which I think a lot of us get carried away. Set boundaries. Never underestimate the quiet power of perseverance.
Yeah.
This is something which I'm a very, not this men women thing. Is it doesn't, probably because I served 22 years in the army. I was half the time being called Saab and sir. So
Yeah.
somehow I always I'm a little non men woman thing. But there's one thing which I feel women definitely are having a better off than men, is perseverance. So never underestimate the quiet power of perseverance. You're enough, and you're stronger than you think you are. I think that's it. That's something which I would like to convey
Those
to
are some
all the girls who are
strong
listening.
words from you, Navneet. So thank you so much, not just for your time today, but for your service, your leadership, and the example that you lead with, right? Through Voice of Valor, we wanted to showcase stories that empower, and yours has exactly done that. From college corridors to combat zones, to global missions to boardrooms, I think you've walked every path with grit and grace. And to everyone watching you today, thank you so much for joining us, and continue to stay tuned as we bring you many such voices of valor, vision, and unwavering strength. Thank you, Navneet, for your time, and it was wonderful to hear you today.
It was wonderful to be with you, Vandana. Thank you. Take
Thank
care.
you so much. You too. Bye bye.